Phase 1 of the competition is drawing to a close as the judges look at the final 5 concept designs. Will one of these starships be immortalized in video game history? Welcome to the Next Great Starship. Hi everyone, we are here in Austin, Texas for episode 7 of the Next Great Starship.
Right now I'm just kind of showing the process of how we give feedback on some of the concept. This is for the Alien Van Duel Harvester, which is a ground-based vehicle. My main focus on the feedback is sort of the general look and feel of something and sort of its aesthetics and consistency with everything else related to that particular asset. And then what usually happens is there's more feedback that goes to Mark Skelton, making sure that things are sort of following in line with upgrades and weaponry, and sort of like a little bit tighter on the specs and making sure that it sort of follows what it's supposed to follow to get into the game.
Since they're going to be so small on the screen and the holotable, that their silhouette read needs to be big enough to be able to read the variation from component to component. Right. So
Chris Olivia is more, he's the overview guy. He works with the concept guys to get a look and feel of a certain area, and then what I do, I'll take that look and feel and I will have the artist implement it into 3D.
Honestly, like some of these things, like they're all up front right here.
Right.
I mean, you've got a couple back there.
And then I will take the concept and the 3D that they give me and kind of interpret it, because every time it seems like what happens inevitably is that you have a really nice concept, and then when you put it in 3D and walk around it, there's some things that come up that aren't necessarily thought through on the concept. So that's where I come in. I kind of look at it and evaluate what they've given me and then give feedback.
I'm Sandy Gardner, and here are our judges. We have the LA Couch.
Hi, I'm Dave Hobbins. I'm a concept artist at Cloud Imperium Games in Santa Monica.
Chris Roberts, Project Director, Star Citizen, and head of Cloud Imperium Games. Also in Santa Monica, but very friendly with Austin. Used to live here.
Not so friendly as the couch over here, the Austin Couch.
Austin couch.
The better looking
Austin
couch.
The better looking couch, yeah. The nicer dressed couch.
The nicer dress, yeah, the color. Chris Smith, lead vehicle artist, based in Austin for Cloud Imperium Games.
Mark Skelton, the man meat in the meat sandwich that we've got going on here, and the art director in Austin.
Chris Olivia, Chief Visual Officer of Cloud Imperium Games in Austin.
All right, guys, this is the last episode of the concept art phase. All the teams had to do the mercenary gunship. Check out the specs to remind everybody. So guys, how are you feeling about the concept art phase? What we've seen so far, what we're going to see today?
I've been really impressed by what we saw in the last 2 episodes. I think the quality of work's fantastic, and also for the fact that they only had 19 days from the time we told them to us seeing the work, considering a lot of these people have other jobs. It's not easy. I mean, the Mustang, which I think everyone saw in episode 4, was about 2 full weeks of sort of concept development, and that was all you were doing. So, I'm super impressed. I'm really excited to see what we have this week. It'll be fun.
It seems like it's been getting better and better. So looking forward to it for sure.
There better not be any phone-ins on this one.
All right, guys, you ready to see the last 5 teams?
Definitely.
Let's do it.
Let's roll the video.
What we usually do first is to do several sketches to visualize the subject and have something to start with. Our main inspiration for the ship was basically the name itself. Mercenary and gunship are 2 explosive words. Mixed together, you can get an excellent idea on what the ship does and how it looks. The hardest part was to place every specification in place without missing or misinterpreting anything. Once we had a better version, we made a basic low-res model to work on the shape and details, doing paintovers and sketches. The ship has 8 thrusters, each with its own movement, making it perfect for space and atmosphere. The thrusters are strong enough to lift the ship vertically and make fast deployment landings. The mercenary gunship is a big bulky piece of metal and packs quite a punch, having 2 man turrets on top and 1 in the bottom that gives the ship excellent offensive and defensive capabilities, plus a pilot-controlled turret, 2 missile pods and 2 extra hardpoints on the front sides, making it an excellent multi-purpose combat ship. That was our mercenary gunship. I hope you like it, and I see you next time.
Why don't we have the LA couch kick that off? David Hobbins.
I think my main issues with it are that it feels a little blocky, chunky, and toy-like in proportion. So I would go and revisit a lot of the big surfaces and start incorporating secondary surfaces to just make them a little more sophisticated. But some of the earlier silhouette illustrations were really interesting, and honestly, to me, some of those other thumbnails were more interesting than what they actually went with.
Seeing their process and how they went about it was the right way. I mean, it was, you start with the silhouettes and you start to block it out, sort of zone in on one, then do sort of a 3D simple block out so you can sort of get proportions and then do some paint overs. So all that was good, and I also liked the way that they were figuring out, okay, where the thrusters would be and where the various spaces were. I'm not sure I'm in love with the actual shape. I mean, I don't sort of see it and I go, I want that. For some reason, I mean, I think partly it's to do with the proportions, like the front thruster things are so big that it, I don't know, it's just sort of
And they lined up with the cockpit section, so I really felt like either it should be back or in front.
Yeah,
some sort of variation.
Technically, the process and the rendering style, even though it's a little too graphic, comic-y for me, and I think that like this would look good in like a Marvel or a DC comic, basically. Right. But I sort of want something that's a bit more, feels like it has industrial design and a bit more real world. So good, but I'm not in love.
Proportion issues on this couch?
Yeah, I mean...
Proportion issues on this couch.
What does that mean, Sandy? Boat in the middle.
Subconscious.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was okay. It was had some interesting stuff in it. I kind of like the aggressive stance of this ship, and it does, with the guns kind of sticking out. It was cool. The main thing I think bothered me was the big shapes on the front and the back. That made it look cartoony. And the rear thrusters kind of bothered me the most. They looked a little bit like an air vent that you see like coming out of a building.
Yeah, I mean, I actually wouldn't mind seeing like some more like punch-in details of how the thruster's going to work, because they sort of looked like the idea was they were sort of big vents that like would move around or something that would direct the thrust, but I didn't,
there was no secondary smaller. I mean, I saw the big ones and he had a diagram, but I was trying to look for like any.
Well, I mean, it sounds like, when he was talking about it, it sounds like they were thinking about how it was going to work. So I think when you do that, it would be nice, like in the concept to have like we've talked about, a little block out animation, or at least some cut in a punch in detail to say, okay, this is what happens when you're in VTOL, this is what happens when you're trying to pitch the ship, this is what happens when you're trying to roll the ship, this is what happens when you're trying to yaw the ship.
That they had a really crude drawing to start talking about that, but they should have
taken it further.
Yeah.
Right?
I think it's pretty safe. It's kind of a safe design. They didn't really, I think like David was saying, like if they would have pushed it, like those front things in particular, there's too much surface area and not enough like breakup for size. I think if they would have maybe broke that up a little differently and, like David said, either move them forward or move them back to weight it a little bit, because like right in the middle, it throws the whole weight of the ship off, and it's not as interesting as if they
Yeah,
would
and
have
they're
like
all
pushed
of equal proportion.
I think that's what I'm responding to. Is those arms were about the same like width as the
Yeah.
cockpit as the other
Yeah.
arms, so you've got these like elements that are all stacked and about the
And it
same.
just becomes really static.
Yeah, it's
And a
weird. Your
gunship
eyes
should
just like
be
man,
anything
it kind of gets stuck there because you're like
Yeah.
it's all just
And the
kind
rear
of wash
parts are
over.
real like boxy,
Yeah.
like a square kind of thing.
Chief Visual Officer?
Yeah, no, I agree with, wait, what did he say?
He said you agree.
No, I agree with most everybody here except Chris Smith.
Yeah,
No.
I was gonna say that too.
Yeah, when you look at it from the top view, it really showed the flaw in the design as far as like boxy, you know, the 4 big boxes and in the center. From 3/4 view, it kind of had like a nice aggressive feel. They didn't go droopy with the, you know, it was like very sort of like forward momentum looking, but secondary shapes, you know, breakouts would push it and help it. Yeah, it was just kind of just too boxy in general, so.
Well, a bit of rework on the proportions, the boxiness and the shapes of it. Let's roll the next one.
Hi, this is Ben with Team Belafonte. Right, so this is the concepting portion of the contest that I've been working on. So the process so far, I generated a lot of thumbnails to try to nail down a basic silhouette. I then chose some of the elements that I liked from those different silhouettes and combined them into one design. From that, I kind of did a small paint over, and then that kind of bled into my main concept, which was this. I'm not going to go into a lot of the details of it. I did make some notes on some of the things that kind of stood out about this particular design. But also I made a secondary design or a variation of this one that had some other things that were slightly different with it as well. So, and those have a little bit of explanations in that too. I had a lot of fun doing the concept work. I'm looking forward to the next portion of the contest and getting some feedback on what I've done so far.
Austin Couch.
I think that one 3/4 view that they ended up with, something felt really weird about it. Like the perspective, I couldn't kind of tell the overall volume and shape of it. It felt kind of like buggy looking, like an insect. I wasn't in love with it. I think it needed to be pushed a lot further.
It felt like a helicopter without the rotary blades to me. It was like kind of a chunky, safe sort of design, I guess. I mean, they didn't really push anything out of the ordinary. They didn't experiment with anything.
Right, it's him, by the way. It's just one person.
Him,
Yes.
sorry. He said up front that he's not a concept guy, and I respect that. But, I mean, at least like block it out maybe in 3D, a full view of it so you can feel exactly what you're looking at, you know, and feel the proportions from all different sides.
I mean, he was able to like get like some really interesting silhouettes right off the bat, so he knew how to handle that. But yeah, he needed to like really try to.
If he's more comfortable modeling,
I thought,
Yeah, just
then
do
you
it in
should
model.
design and
Right.
you know.
I mean,
that's what I thought. I
fine.
mean, based on his shapes that he had, I thought he would actually come up with something a little bit more interesting that he ended up with. I mean, it looked like he had some wing design. Actually, like some of the designs he picked look a little bit like the alien dropship in proportion, sort of fat and then went skinny, which is fine, nothing wrong with that. But it looked like a helicopter without blades to me too. Some of the details in there were interesting, and he thought a little bit about thruster placement. But yeah, it was a little underwhelming.
Yeah, I think Team Belafonte's strength is in modeling more than the concept side. You know, I was looking at it and going, that's pretty much a helicopter, but without the rotor blades. I sort of felt like it was too literal, and then definitely I agree with Chris that there was something off, like with the perspective and proportions of it.
Yeah.
Maybe he was thinking, well, this is concept and I have to draw concept or something. Where, you know, like concept, you know, there's plenty of people, like Ryan Church, who, you know, is world-class concept artist who's done a bunch of our stuff. He does not draw it first. He actually blocks out really basic shapes.
Well, you have
and then
the
we sort of
perspective.
develop the shape, and then he's only doing paint overs later on. And we've had some people that have, you know, used it, like one bit amoeba's like, I can't draw at all, but I'm pretty good on the model side, and he sort of blocked it out, and we all liked it. So I think maybe on this, you know, go back and try to sort of block out
Yeah,
a bit more of the shape, and then do a little bit of a draw over, a paint over, whatever. But I think that would help.
I was pretty underwhelmed in general. I think that he needs to go back and do, I mean, almost a complete rethink. I would even continue.
Wow, that's sort of you are our mean judge. You're like, oh,
no,
he just recently do it.
I feel like I mean, his sketch where he designed within the
Take
silhouette.
it further.
That was kind of sort of like, it comes up softly behind and then the knife's in.
Yeah.
What happened?
Shiv.
I felt like there needed to be a little more variation in the silhouette. From the illustration he produced, there was one interesting element to me, and it was on the vertical tail surface. There was a strut that connected it back to the lower fuselage, and I thought that could be kind of interesting. And so he may want to
You
play.
like the strut.
I like this part right here.
We do everything except for the strut.
This is universal for strut to the.
Start over except for this right here.
No, I felt like that was an element that kind of pulled me in. I thought it was unique, and I feel like he could exploit that.
To sum up what you said, start over. Is that what you're saying? Except for the strut.
Strut.
Yeah, no, I mean, I just
Don't
think that
touch that strut.
Clearly this guy has modeling skill set, and I think he might be far more comfortable to interpret those silhouettes in 3D and be able to change up the proportion, shave weight in various places. And, I think he found a silhouette he thought was interesting, but his struggles with illustrating and perspective may have thrown the design off. He may have better ideas, but they are not communicated.
All right, interesting feedback on this one. Let's play the next one.
After gathering as much information as possible, we proceeded with basic sketching and blockouts with various shapes and engine positions. I guess the hardest part was integrating the engines in this package. After the blockout, there were various issues that had to be dealt with, such as turret placement and space which it covers. Here is the final version. I wish I could explain all the features we added in this ship, but hopefully the design can be read by itself. As you can see, all weapons sink into the hull, or maybe just fold like the chin turret. The ship itself is quite modular, as you can see in this upgraded version for ground combat. The cargo bay has been upgraded to 15 tons for troop deployment. The interior has been designed to provide basic life and all the needed ship access. Here are the animations, as you can see, fully closed with a much more fluid shape for atmospheric re-entry. So that's it. This is our ship. I hope you guys like it. Bye.
Bye.
All right, well, Chris Roberts. How was that process for you?
I thought that was great. That was awesome. I mean, it was basically everything we were sort of talking about Team Belafonte. Like, okay, how do the thrusters work? Where are they? How do they rotate? How do you get in? Where are the people? Where are the stations?
Docking.
Even getting in and out. I mean, I think this is probably the one of all the ones we've seen so far that has had the most thought as far as that goes. So for me, this would be a gunship that I would be quite happily flying around and think would fit inside the universe really well. The one thing I did notice that doesn't match up with the specs is that the two turrets, the side turrets, basically it looked like every one of the turrets was a class 4 turret. They were like unmanned, so remotely controlled, and there needed to be 2 manned turrets. So but they all looked like they were sort of remote or unmanned.
Nose and then
yeah, it had one on the nose and one on either side. So that was it. But the thrusters looked crap. I mean, the details they had on the thrusters, they also had front thrusters, I noticed. So I'm not quite sure where they are from the center of mass in terms of whether it would work perfectly well for rotation, but that was probably one of the better ones I'd seen in terms of deployment and everything. It actually looked cool in the VTOL mode as well as up. So yeah, I'm a big fan of this one. Other than working out the manned turret issue, for me, I don't have a vast amount of feedback on it.
Dave Hobbins, no need to start again?
No need to start again. I thought this was an excellent job in general. I just thought proportionally and surface-wise, I thought they did an excellent job. It got me excited. I would want to fly around in this. Previously, we had a design that sort of drooped towards the front, and I sort of felt like that's fine. There needs to be some payoff there, but I also sort of felt like something needs to counteract that, and that huge, instrument boom that they have coming out the top is sort of although it's a very small piece, it still is so different from the other that it sort of creates a visual balance that counters the drooping nose. My one critique. Yeah, I know.
Sharpen up the shiv.
Is some of the. I do feel like I like some of the gray shaded 3D models better than the final illustrated, fully textured illustrations at the end. Part of that has to do with the angle that they selected.
You're right. Whatever the angle, just didn't give me the same sense of.
And also maybe the illustration style, that some lines may have been painted a little too thick or sometimes.
Yeah, so a little more graphic and less.
It needs to be that real variation of big forms and very small forms. I mean, it's a reasonable, it's a decent sized ship.
Guys.
Yeah, I thought it was good. And he had no blockout animation, but in the drawings, he explained it pretty well.
You could see how they would rotate and how it would work.
He did a good job of illustrating that in the drawings. I liked it quite a bit, actually.
Yeah, I did too. It was really cool, man. They put a ton of work into like blocking out interior and stuff like that. You could tell that they were really thinking about the interior and the way it fit and the way that the ship felt or fit around it, which is super important. I do like that big boom, like you said, because without that, it would feel really off balance. But yeah, that big boom that came out kind of weighted it for me because you got those big elements in the back, and then it kind of goes down. So
and it's intimidating. It serves a function.
It's like a stinger.
When you're doing the Mustang and you're working full time, and it was 2 weeks, so like 10 work days, and this was 19 days, and some people probably were working on it fairly full, some weren't. But the other thing is it's a much bigger ship, so there's a lot more stuff to figure out. Than
especially internally.
Right, I mean, for instance, to concept out something like the Idris Corvette takes much longer than to do sort of a one single seat fighter. So it's the amount of work they put into this, was really impressive.
Yeah, for the amount of time, for sure, and everything.
I thought it was beautiful. I really liked it. It had a very cohesive feel. There was a nice balance of all the different pieces. I love the way the main thrusters, the way they connected to the body. There's this these rings that sort of looked really, really functional and sort of chunky and hardcore, and it looked like it would work perfectly. I think the weakest part was the cutaway showing the interior. It was sort of hard to read some of this interior spaces, and I think there's an art to showing the different inside.
Well, yeah, I mean, if I remember, I like the cutaway in the interior, but how do you go between the different compartments and stuff like that?
Right.
We had some cool interior illustrations of the cockpit and stuff with the seats and everything.
A lot of love for this one.
I liked it.
But let's roll the next one.
Is able to concentrate fire of all turrets on the ground or on the top side of the ship we are going to board. There are just minimal blind zones. Pilot is able to cover Marines during attack or retreat. Gunners have their own cabins, there are sleeping pods for everyone, pilot, gunners, up to 6 Marines, and in civil variants there will be space for pilot cabin as well. Our ship is not that pretty, but it is solid and will serve you for the lifetime.
All right. Mark Skelton.
All right. This ship's pretty cool. I like it. I like the bug feel to it. It's kind of like a beetle. It feels like thick and heavy armor, like it could really take a punch. There's a few elements that I would maybe push a little bit around, maybe give the silhouette a little more interest, but honestly, I mean, it feels super utilitarian, so I mean, as it is, it's pretty cool. I mean, it definitely feels like you could beat the crap out of it and it would take it, it's pretty sweet. I like that.
Do you agree?
I do. Silhouette-wise, it is a bit sort of just simple, plain. It could, maybe some secondary pieces to kind of like add more visual interest from a distance. But it did look heavy and beefy and powerful. The landing gear, I think they should try to explore a little bit more the way the landing gear was. I wasn't real happy with that.
It was kind of spindly for how big that sucker is.
It also felt a little linear, like 4 equally spaced.
Ding, ding, ding,
Like a little tacked on. Yeah. But I love the way the sort of engines were sort of like placed into the overall shape. It was kind of cool.
They fit in kind of nicely with the tucked away.
I quite like this one as well, and I like that he did a little previous animation for the thrusters. It was cool, and that was interesting how they moved. Although, they're pretty long. I mean, I don't know how about any secondary thrusters that make the ship move maybe quicker, because it seemed like there would be a lot of articulation the way he had
Too
it.
sea cucumbery.
Yeah, although to be honest with you, on the gunship, it's okay.
It's a bit slower.
To be, because the idea is it's not like super like nimble and maneuverable, right? It's sort of out there, and so it's got a huge amount of firepower, and it can take a lot of damage. But its downside is it's not going to be like zipping around. So,
but you don't want it to be like a huge passenger boat, kind of slow, too slow.
No, but I mean, you got to have these things balanced, because otherwise, like something with that firepower that can like keep up with a Hornet, it's like, why would you be having a Hornet? So I kind of actually that was one of the reasons when we did the specs, and that's why I suggested having 4 main engines that also doubled as maneuvering jets on the back, and then 4 maneuvering jets on the front. It just takes you longer to get your thrusters into position, which means you'll have more of a delay in changing the vector of your ship.
David.
I like this design. I felt like it looked like it could take a lot of fire. It really communicated its function, and I felt like it had a lot of character. I liked the thrusters, though, like you, Mark. I did, when it swung out all the way, I was a little worried. But so you may want to think about some alternatives. But I'm sort of on the fence. Maybe if I saw it from another angle, it could be really visually interesting and break that silhouette up in a really cool way. My critique would be to focus on, and I think this would go for a number of the designs, would be to focus on the cockpit and the mullion breakup of that cockpit. The support structure, the pillars of, look at a car, you have A, B, and C. This would be the pillar structure of the cockpit canopy. I feel like it's totally a focal point. Our eyes go there because typically there's action. It's where the pilots would be, and it's also an inherent material change that you're typically going to go from some metal to glass. So your eye's going to be there, and I feel like if you really spend time there, it's going to pay huge dividends in the long run. So, but otherwise, great design, and it just looked like it could do the business.
I really like this design because it's sort of, like I think we had, like in the previous episode, we had Vision Cut, right? And we said that, their gunship was ugly, but, wasn't quite there to like embracing the ugliness, right? So I sort of feel like that's what this one does. It's like, it's ugly in a good way, right? It's like that sort of compact, tough, looks like it can really take the damage. I mean, it just says like gun platform, and the way the turrets are set up, having the sort of missile rack come out from the inside, it's like you can bring it down and you can maybe load up some more missiles if you have them in storage.
Like the Constellation.
Yeah, like the Constellation. We're doing that exactly on the Constellation, and the turrets on the side. So it just felt like it really could, like everyone says, take a lot of damage, and it felt like, beautiful in an ugly way for it sort of thing. So I like that. For me, generally, I think everything is moving in the right direction. But what I'd like to see on the next round of the concept is, okay, I think we all kind of like it. So, okay, start to polish it up. Like, okay, where's your details here? Because I would say, like, the details on this were not, like we just saw on the Shard Collective one, they'd sort of figured out a lot more of the sort of finer detail. So I would say that's sort of missing from here. But the general sort of approach, stance, feel of it was really good. It was great to see the sort of block out animation and the sort of line drawing.
It'd probably be good to explore some different variations of those maneuverable thrusters.
Yep. Yeah, that would be one of those. Also be aware of the front thrusters. I also like the way they thought about what a gunship does. Like they sort of said, okay, I'm making a gunship. This is what it needs to do, and you could definitely tell in their final design that they had sort of achieved what their specification was, which was also really good.
All right, some good feedback on that one. Let's roll the last one.
Hello, fellow citizens. Today we're speaking not from our ISM headquarters in Graz, but as you can see from the Great Wall in China.
For size reference, we took the Class 5 turrets of the Constellation to get an image of how big the ship would be. This meant we would get to a size roughly at 245 meters, thus being in between the Constellation and the Freelancer. We tried to align the two turrets so they both would be able to fire forward and at the same time each turret being able to support a 360-degree area around the ship, as well as the lower turret protecting 195 degrees of the lower hull and the upper turret protecting nearly 200 degrees of the upper hull. The overall look of the gunship somehow felt like a good mix of being aggressive and elegant at the same time. It also provided a better layout of the internal rooms and more space at the side of the front part of the hull to fit the Class 3 hardpoints. The Class 4 hardpoint would also have a better positioning and it would not interfere with the visibility for the gunners for the main Class 5 turrets. Finally, we still made some variations of hull coloring, still for both variants, and added some rough concept art. This concludes our concept stage so far. Thanks for watching.
Are you looking at me?
I am looking at you.
I'm not a big fan of this. He said it was aggressive and elegant, and I really didn't think it was aggressive or elegant. I'm not sure how to constructively critique it other than maybe start over.
Oh.
Well, I learned from you, man.
I was the one.
I learned from watching you,
Not
Dad.
as subtle as he is.
To take a chance on a very different shape was nice, but it didn't. To me, it didn't say gunship.
It looks more fast than gunship. You know, it's too sleek. It doesn't look like it could take a hit, really. I guess the design feels. It feels smaller than what they're trying to make it, you know, because of the big blocky shapes kind of that they have, the big swooping shapes. I mean, it is more elegant than, you know, I think a gunship should be. I like my gunships kind of, you know, Hulk, ugly, smash, you know.
See, we all say,
chubby.
like, maybe someone should do something different than a helicopter gunship. And then when it comes down to it, everyone's like,
yeah, but I mean, that's not that huge of a constraint.
I didn't mind the sleekness and the elongated style. I think from the side, maybe, like the problem was it just looked like a thin wafer a little bit. It was just too thin all the way around. I like the top view profile, and I thought the cockpit with the thing around it was kind of interesting, and the escape pod. Like I said, I think like what they're kind of responding to, maybe the ugliness was like there was nothing in the back, so it was just that sort of consistent ramp up to the thing, and you kind of expect something in the back to break it up a little bit, and maybe in height and with vertical shapes.
Verticality.
Verticality. Thank you. I actually thought I kind of liked it. I mean, there was a few issues with it. I agree with some of the stuff they said, but I wasn't bothered by it that much.
Well, you should be.
I mean, it could be worked on. It needs to be worked on for sure. But I thought there was some cool angles in it, you know, overall. And
Yeah, I mean, don't get me
I don't
wrong.
mind the sleek look. Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I liked it. I just didn't like it as a
now he's
gunship.
backpedaling.
Is what I'm saying. It was okay. The design was okay, just not for a gunship. What the?
So we can't backpedal on the backpedaling.
So I, like for me, I like the thought they put into the design in terms of like, okay, here's the turrets, here's the field of view, here's how they deploy. I mean, because that's what you should do for a gunship. So actually, in terms of like functionality, in terms of what you want, it was good. I think there's a version of that approach to the gunship that could be cool, right? I just think that what maybe you guys are responding to is it's a pretty basic, like, you know, okay, so it's sort of a more long and it's sleek, but then that sort of feels like it needs a different, but it's still kind of blocky and angular, right? So it's sort of, the blocky and angular stuff fights against this sort of extended, sort of sleeker version. So I could definitely see a gunship, you know, like if you think of like the Retaliator, right, that we have, the Round Church design, that's sort of like longer and sleek, and it's pretty big, but you sort of get you're not going, oh well, I mean, first of all, it does kind of feel like a modern sort of B-1 style bomber. So you have that, but that's kind of when you think about the longer sleek, you sort of, it's almost like you want sort of more swooping
from the side, or remind me of like a Concorde or something, like, but without anything.
Without the
like
curved surfaces.
But it didn't just end it, like the back of it just kind of ended boring.
My input would be like, I like the functionality, I like the sort of idea, and it's kind of cool. The turrets come down, and I could definitely see something like that working, but you would have to go back to the form and embrace its its sleekness, and you're going for a different feel. So you're sort of feeling like it's a sort of longer, more extended, not short, stubby, but don't have like long and extended, but then big flat, panels and.
So commit.
Yeah,
right.
I mean but I don't think it's a do-over. I think you just got to sort of embrace its feel.
Work. I think it could work.
Do-over for you?
Not exactly. I think there's a lot of potential here, and I like the challenge that they gave themselves. I thought the top-down profile was kind of interesting, and for me, my issues were immediately the front canard wing frame and fuselage, just read as sort of a modern-day Formula One car, and a ground effects wing.
And
that I have concerns about the cockpit placement. I mean, I thought it was cool they were thinking about it being an escape pod and this, but placing it in the center and having all this fuselage on either side, it just seemed like it wouldn't be really a great place to pilot or shoot from. The profile silhouette of the fuselage was really linear, and I felt like it just curved on this very even, safe way, and I feel like it just needs a tension point, something to pop up and down. The more secondary forms that sort of pop out from that will make it more dynamic and make it a little more nimble visually.
All right, guys, well, that was the last video, so you know what time it is. Get your phones out, email me your top 3 picks, and I'll tally up the votes, and we'll go from there. Okay, guys, the results are in, and you agreed unanimously on 3 teams.
Yes. Woo! Did we? We agree on something.
You all think that True and Shard Collective should advance to the next round, so congratulations to them.
Yes, they did.
Yeah,
great job. Also all agree that Team Belafonte should not, which means it's either Eris Heavy Manufacturing or Infinite Shui Monkey. So let's see how that vote played out. Chris Smith.
I think I'll go for the Infinite Shui Monkey.
Is that the one that you went for? Yeah. You're like, oh, I think I'll go for it.
I think I'll go for those guys.
Yeah, you can't change your mind. Okay.
Go for those guys.
Mark.
I chose Eris.
Of course.
Was that hard to remember? Wait.
No, I just wanted to see what he would. He's like, I don't know. I thought that was, I think, closer and would require less reworking, in my opinion, than the monkeys.
Infinite Shui Monkey did not get my vote.
I knew it.
Ooh, psych.
Wow.
No explanation needed.
No explanation.
All right, so two from Eris, 1 from me.
I voted for Infinite Shui Monkey.
Oh, it's coming down.
No, it was extremely difficult. I tend to err on the more extreme or daring design. I'm always interested in trying to incorporate something new myself.
Infinite Shui Monkey actually were the wild card winner.
Yes.
So are you going to are you going to put them into the save, or?
I voted for Infinite Shui Monkey because very much on Davis. So here's the thing: is we have way too many. This is a helicopter gunship, sort of aggressive gunshipy designs in this, and we've already got some really well executed ones of those. So I don't feel like the Ares heavy manufacturing version of that is going to be better than some of the other ones I've seen.
Doesn't add anything.
Yeah, and it's not adding anything. And yes, I do have some issues with the Infinite Shui Monkey design, but we've given some feedback. I like the way they approach it, and it's different, right? So I'd like to see a few different approaches, you know, moving their way towards the final, and if they can up the game a little bit, I think it'd be better, because we basically do not want to be picking between 4 versions of a Hind 24 gunship.
Yes, we do.
Okay, maybe we do. I voted for them, and I guess I'm on the right side of this one.
History here.
Yeah, maybe I should.
Oh.
All right, here we go.
All right, there we go.
Okay.
Look at
Winners and losers.
Whatever.
Sorry, guys.
All right, community, the fate of 2 teams is in your hands. All saved teams are in, and you can go check out their reworked videos based on the judges' feedback on our website. Next week, we are going to reveal the 2 teams that you saved, and there are a lot of other surprises.
And one of them needs to be Eris for the sake of this couch.
Yeah, we're feeling lonely.
All right. See you next Friday.
See ya.
See ya.